Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, Season 3, Episode 2, Music Mayhem / The Night Lights of Tenoo. The episode is rated TV Y, basically 6 years and up, so will this video be. There will be spoilers for the show leading up to and including this episode, and hypothetically everything Star Wars that had come out when this episode first premiered in late 2025. And another episode that is good to great. I think I'll start with just a couple of the no, wait, never mind. I said I'm really ready. We're gonna get right into the chronological, more or less. And I thought that I appreciated them opening the episode on just showing kids excited about something that's going to be fun. That's a good way to immediately draw in the 6-year-olds watching. There's that thing of like it could inspire FOMO. I wonder if they did sell the song that the band played during this. Is there anything left that Star Wars hasn't already commodified? I'd actually planned on holding off for longer before before the whole far left thing in this video. Oops. But I like that the favorite band of the trio themselves have a favorite band that they're really anxious to impress, because that is really important for kids to learn. No matter who you look up to, there's a really decent chance that they also have someone they really look up to. We're all human beings. In the case of Star Wars, sometimes alien, android. Now, I think that does pretty much, yeah. And so we have the thing about, the, Kit, the drummer, who I appreciate the shows for 6-year-olds. I'm not going to CinemaSins it. I'm just saying it amuses me, probably more than it should, that Kit showing how good of a drummer they are is specifically by being able to get really good sound quality out of banging metal against ice. Because I happen to think that probably would not sound quite as good in real life. But, I mean, exaggeration breeds understanding, as the Danish, maybe, saying goes. I'm not sure I've heard it in any other language. And I liked Rek better here. I mean, I thought he had potential the first time we saw him, but I didn't necessarily love what they were doing with the character, especially if they are, like, gonna do this thing. He's in the opening. Presumably he is, like, taking over from the Prince Bounty Hunter, Tabor, as the main spot, the main central antagonist, now that Tabor is going through a redemption arc. The trios, I didn't think it completely. I didn't think it was the best way to do it in the other Rek episode, which I guess was the first of the season. Anyway, I thought it really worked here because, I mean, I'm probably going to be accused, possibly fairly so, of overanalyzing, but I feel like this is maybe about self-image. I appreciate that, the surface, an obvious reading is, of course, well, it's about, like, just general kind of self-confidence kind of thing. I think it is about, like, because, like, it's specifically, it's not that Kit gets something new, it's that changes are made to Kit's body in order to, live up to a specific ideal. I feel like that is, and I know some people are going to say, oh, 6-year-olds, they're too young for that. As long as you're not getting more explicit than this, I don't think so. It's the kind of thing of like, because sometimes when you hear people talk about, you know, yeah, making some kind of significant change to their body, they'll talk about that they were not very old the first time that they felt bad about their body. So if this can help prevent that, that would be wonderful. And yeah, ultimately, like the band, they're thinking, the Kublops are thinking, maybe we can do this. We'll try to impress them because they're, the trio encourage them. And of course, then, I mean, Wreck, if you add the words Wreck and Kit, you do get Wreck It, because that's what Wreck does here. And yeah, that was also, I really appreciated this thing of like, no, Kit came with on their own, because of the insecurity. Because that's, again, such an important thing to understand, and kids understand more than they're sometimes given credit for. I mean, obviously, there are a number of things that they are only going to learn when they get a little older, but we also have to be careful not to postpone everything. Child psychologists will point out, like, there's a bunch of stuff they will understand if it's communicated to them in the right way. And once again, the earlier start you get, the more you can teach them, the better chance, the better start at life they get. And I think that pretty much brings us, because that also helps, maybe some 6-year-olds can be watching this and be like, that actually, Kit here reminds me of someone I know or myself or something, and not pursue, changes that, yeah. And I'll admit it, sometimes I have a terrible sense of humor. I found it really funny that the whole thing about how Kit, that the changes made to Kit means that it's nearly impossible to sneak out of there. I don't know. That was just, that worked for me. That felt like a kind of classic, I don't know, Laurel and Hardy, Charlie Chaplin kind of, just absolutely ridiculous. So overdone. Like they didn't just add, like, I don't know, what was that, like 3 brand new instruments, all of which play every single time Kit takes a step. Like that's, yeah. And I also really like that thing about, like, this way you'll be a one droid band. So Rek is a, you know, someone who splits up groups of friends and people who get along out of just selfishness. That's genuinely something that, yeah, 6-year-olds should not want to emulate that, and I think they do a good job making Rek unappealing. And if they can recognize that kind of pattern of behavior, maybe they know, okay, that's another kid that we really want to steer clear of, and continuing to adulthood. And I mean, the song is not bad, obviously. I don't know if I even need to say that. I just want to appreciate the actual musicians who made it. And I suppose that does pretty much, that's nearly that entire chunk of the episode. Let's see if there's anything left that I want. I appreciated that while there was a little bit of action, ultimately it was also partially, this part of the episode was concluded with a conversation. Kit asserts that they want to be with the band, and Rek, just gives up, because that's the, you know, I mean, clearly Rek likes the idea of, yeah, I think part of the thing they're doing with Rek is maybe this thing of trying to change things, whether the people and droids and such that, well, I guess primarily droids, really, whether they even want it, or luring them into, convincing them that it will be better, that sort of thing. And yeah, it was very cool there at the end when, it's like, we can't do without Kit's drum solo, and then Kit gets there and does the drum solo, and yeah, I really appreciated that, at the start of the episode, the Kublops were, and I mean, I can understand why, but, they look at this other band and they are utterly starstruck by the strummer's star drummer. Didn't quite stick the landing, but okay. And yeah, here by the end, they're getting praise back. And that really is wonderful to see. There are some celebrities who will, tell someone who is considered to not quite be at their level, hey, you're doing great, I admire you. And that's also something, like, if shows partially made for Americans, if they're gonna obsess over celebrities, I'd rather it be the ones who are, trying to, I would say it's called pay it forward, like trying to be nice to people who have less power than them, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think that does bring us to the second of the two stories in this episode. So this was, just for the record, this was where I was intending to get far leftist. So yeah, we're gonna do a little bit more of that now. Yeah, this thing of, so obviously on its face and in its head, it is great to say, hey, don't worry so much about, like, material items. If I were more of a video essayist, I might make a meal out of the following. Instead, I'm just gonna briefly note, I would not rule out that this episode sold hollow cam toys. And I don't know, that just feels, there's a sort of ironic twist there, I feel. And I understand the show's for 6-year-olds. I don't think it would have been the worst thing in the world if they had not gotten the holocam back there at the end. It kind of felt like there was a chance to teach a lesson. I just imagine Bart Simpson sitting and watching it. I guess I better straighten up and fly. Anyway, yeah, I think, yeah, it is a little sad to think about, but yeah, it is obviously, for many, relevant to 6-year-olds to be telling them, hey, limit your screen time, So that's also quite good, yeah. And I think, and I do really appreciate the fact that, they're at the end, you have the thing about, like, listen, it's one thing to take the hollow picture, but I'm just glad I'm here with you. Value other people over material goods. Yeah. And I think that does pretty much bring us to, yeah, so the Mikas. I was reminded of that bird that Donald Duck absolutely hates while he's trying to appreciate birds he finds more aesthetically pleasing. And the Roadrunner, kind of, this thing of being annoying in a way that doesn't necessarily put off the audience, kind of thing, which I also appreciate. Like, that obviously has a certain charm to it, an appeal. And I'm to be perfectly honest, like, at first I was like, oh really, we're doing this? But by the end of it, I was like, okay, they're cute. And there's probably also decent sales of them when this first aired. And I think that does pretty much. It was kind of funny. I did keep waiting for someone to call it out, but she just keeps telling the trio, okay, you better move. I'll just keep taking pictures. You have to move camp because my precious. To be fair, it wasn't only the holocam. They were all being messed with by the Mikas. But that's also this thing of, like, I mean, yeah, you're in nature, and I like the fact that Liz is really the only of them who appreciates, oh, look at how playful this is, and everybody else is like, oh, look at how playful these are, just like, yeah, I mean, you want them to nature. Like, this is kind of their home, and you're a visitor, so treat them with respect, and just, yeah. And I think that does pretty much bring us to the I will say at one point I wondered if there was something specific about the holocam that just made them want to follow it, because they kept finding, the Mikas did, but maybe not. And yeah, so once again, I appreciate the shows for 6-year-olds. Don't know if they... No, fair enough. For the 6-year-olds, I appreciate, you don't want to scare them, so we have several seconds to get used to the idea that this, log is going to break and they're going to fall before it actually happens. Because I wouldn't really say it was building tension and suspense. Like, a lot of the time that is what would happen in this kind of situation, but yeah. And I forget if I mentioned it the in the video on the episode before this one, but otherwise I definitely do want to mention here. Rex design is quite good. This kind of, kid inventor engineer kind of deal. And it also just always tickles my fancy whenever I see a show aimed at a young-ish audience, not R-rated, and the way that they try to make us realize, oh, this is an evil character, is for them to have spiky hair, because that just feels like such a, pearl clutchy 1950s suburban, dad who's like, can you believe that? Because it's hair, like, yeah. And I think that does pretty much get us to the... Yeah, so they end up in the pit, and they do think about trying to escape. And yeah, very clever to, finally they work with nature instead of against it, using the play fetch thing. And let's see. Yeah, I did really appreciate that by the end, she's like, listen, if I lose it, I lose it, whatever. And I guess the also really appreciate, I continue to really appreciate that every so often they will do a story where there's not really like fighting, because it just, like, when... I mean, it's basically a story about them coming to terms with, hey, you're kind of in nature, don't expect nature to behave the way that you might like it to, because that's not natural.